Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to this session of the lectures. So, today is the sixth lecture of Basics of Neutron Scattering. Uh, I tried to show you the correlation function in the last talk, but I think I saw some comments and some queries. So, I'll slowly try to go over to the next phase, but before that, I'll try to consolidate quickly what I was trying to do till now, because somebody commented that there are too many expressions to keep in your head. You don't have to remember this or run by rote, but just follow the procedure that I did till now, and it will be clear to you. Little bit of neutron scattering techniques that I used, and the algebra is fairly simple, but I'll just try to go over it quickly. I'll write down and the steps, then you will understand. So to start with, I showed you that under the action of a potential, some initial states went to final states. These initial states are regarding lambda of the scattering system, which includes energy, spin, isotopes, everything, goes to k prime and lambda prime, the final state of the scatterer, under the action of a potential V. And in the first part, I showed that V is a delta function potential of this form for particles frozen in space. And for a select collection of particles, it was a summation. So I had input it there and I arrived at t equal to 0. I was doing it. Somebody asked me whether in my derivation I wrote q, wave vector transfer, equal to k minus k prime, and at some point I made it equal to g. Please note that this is not a requirement of neutron scattering. This is a requirement of diffraction from a crystalline lattice. A crystalline lattice, this if it is a Dirac lattice, there is a reciprocal lattice associated with it, whose formula you know, and this reciprocal lattice vector is g. And for crystal diffraction, for an angle or q at which you will have intensity, that q should be equal to g, a reciprocal wave vector. This is the requirement of crystallography. So this is true for X-ray or neutrons, for both of them. Now coming back to this expression, I showed you for a collection of atoms, I calculated out a scattering amplitude, which was a summation over the scattering length at site j and a phase factor like this. This is what I did. And then I showed you that the average, before that, I showed you that the scattering intensity, not amplitude, is given by a term like this. These are all vectors. And this averaging gave me a coherent part This averaging gave me a coherent part and an incoherent part. There, for neutrons, because there was a fluctuation and the total cross section, the total scattering intensity is given by these two terms, which was one was coherent, one was incoherent. The last part, which I did in the previous lecture, I will now like to write it down for you. So I wrote an expression, excuse me, which was little long for d2 sigma d omega de. I wrote an expression which is slightly longish, but I will now write it down once again for you, term by term, so that you understand exactly what I am doing. First term is k prime by k. The velocity of the outgoing neutron is hk prime. The velocity of the incoming neutron is hk. So k prime by k is basically neutrons going out per second per neutrons coming in per second. So this scaling is necessary to get the scattering cross section. Of course, then I had some numerical terms. I will not write it now for it is m by 2. But then I showed a sum over lambda sigma, the sum over the initial states of the system and sum over the neutron spin states multiplied by their probabilities. This is what I wrote. There was a sum over lambda prime, sigma prime, the final states. And then I had this expression and the square of this will give me the scattering cross section, and if I take out the square, then one term will give me scattering amplitude. With this, I brought in time through a delta function where I said the energy transfer, energy change of the neutron in the scattering process is equal to the energy change in my scattering system. So they balance each other. This is what I did. Now I wanted to emphasize one thing, that this square thing, this I can always break up like this. Into two terms. Because this is a square and these are individual squares. So I can also do it like this. I can bring it to, a complex conjugate of that. So these two multiplied will give me the modulus square, and this I can also write like this. Then whatever is there, followed by k prime, lambda prime, sigma prime. Again, whatever is there between the two, scattering potential, and then k lambda sigma. Please remember that at the end, this summation over k prime, lambda prime, sigma prime into this is 1, because this is nothing but projection operator. As I told you, this is like summing of all the direction cosines in geometrical system, cos theta, cos square alpha plus cos square beta plus cos square gamma equal to 1. This amounts to that when you take all the sum of all the projections, it becomes 1. After this, I made a representation. You please keep noting with me, and then you will realize that I wrote that delta function in one of the representations of this Dirac delta function, which is nothing but second. So this is also, I will say, those who know about Dirac delta function, you must be familiar. There are several representations of Dirac delta function. This is one of these, and this is integrated over omega. So when I wrote this, then if you remember, I had these two brackets, and then this Dirac delta function integration. Now what I did was, I took this and put one bracket between this, which was lambda prime, k prime, I did this. The other bracket I left unchanged, and I put this. I'm sorry, I'm continuously making this mistake. So I beg your pardon. I made a mistake here when writing the. Wait. Now in this integral, I took these terms and put them here. So what I